Hello, Elena, Claudia. Thank you for agreeing to take part in this interview.
Hello.
Hi. It's part of INNO's work on a special issue of International Journal of Disability and Social Justice, intended to mark 50 years of independent living in 2022. The topic of the interview and the special issue is independent living in Europe and beyond, past, present, and future. So let's start with some questions about the past and the lessons learned from 50 years of independent living advocacy. Can you tell me first, how did you learn about independent living and what was the impact of independent living on your life?
We are both 50 years.
Yeah. As the independent living activism.
Yeah, but our story, because we were together in the same institution, which was made for the disabled people. All disabled people in Slovenia should be a special institution.
At that time, of
It
course.
was not possible to go to normal school, even if the parents
wanted to,
yeah. Then we were forced to live in Kamnik, in a big institution, which was far away from our home. It was quite difficult because we are both from the coast, and in our society it was quite different culture. So in this institution we begin to learn what is how to say, in Slovenia is here invalid, the word for disabled people. Before we even know what is invalid, we learn
in institution what it means to be disabled. In our own homes, we did not felt much different than other children.
Yeah.
We played with them, we lived with our parents. It was like everyday life of a normal child. But then in institutions, we find out that we are different, and that because of that, it must be in that school, in that institution.
Yeah.
So me and Elena, we know each other more than 40 years. We finished in this institution primary and secondary school. We have been there for 12 years. And let's say that in last year of the institution, we begin also to rebel against the rules and the restrictions of the institutions. And
so we decided to get out, but we still didn't know.
And we wanted to go to the university, of course, and we wanted to live like every other students lived at that time. That means, or in a student dorm, or in an apartment. And it was especially difficult because when we got out, we found out that there are no possibilities for people who need a lot of hours of assistance per day to get any service, kind of service, or some hours of help per day. So the first year were very hard, and there were a lot of volunteers involved in the lives of Elena and Emil. Emil is the third member of our group and of our beginning, and unfortunately he passed away 2 years ago. and we carry on our fight, because since that day, since the day when we were students, we have some idea how we wanted to live, and we did not know that that means independent living.
Yeah,
We wanted just to live like everybody else, to have
normal life, normal.
to go to the concerts, to study, to have fun and things like this. But on the other side, we have to surpass a lot of limitations that we had. So that means that we actually begin to work on personal assistance program in 93, something like this. And
After the study, during the study.
During the study we have done.
Philosophy.
Yeah. We finished philosophy and sociology of the culture. And in the first year we thought, oh, it will take us few years, and then we will get the law of personal assistance and all these rights, and then we will do our things, the things that we studied for. We were very optimistic at that time. But it didn't happen so fast. It took us more than 30 years to get the law of personal assistance. And it was, like Elena said, the first year were very hard, and we did not know how to manage.
A lot of
improvisation, a lot of voluntary work, a lot of people also supporting us from outside the community. It was also very interesting that at the beginning of our, let's say, professional way, our biggest obstacle were the traditional disability organizations. They were very pro institutions, and they were against the personal assistance, as we
ideas,
or our ideas, of course. It was so this was maybe different than in other countries, where mostly the disability organization did not oppose the independent living. But here it was actually, we had quite a lot of fights with traditional disability organization.
We were many times just very alone and
very alone, yes.
Yeah, in our fighting, in our
let's say that one breakthrough we made was in 98, when we got this pilot project, and it was financed by the Netherlands Social Institute, actually. From outside Slovenia it was financed. And then we also started to write down this little booklet. It was called the Manifesto of Independent Living. And when we were writing this booklet, we found out, oh, those were the same words that already somebody else has told and said. And let's say that in those years, we learned more about independent living in the world, about Berkeley, about European network, and so on. So
yeah, we also find Radka, and we invite them to be our
speaker at one of our first conference. It was in 2002, I think, something like this. And he came, and he
really inspired us. Yeah.
Inspired us in a way that we did not feel so alone anymore. So we said, okay,
it's possible. We are not so stupid, or we are not so crazy to believe that something like this is possible, really possible. There are other people in Europe and all over the world that has the same views And yeah,
and the same and fighting for the same rights. And actually they have all the movement started in the same way as pilot projects that grown and grown, and then when it was loud enough, they passed the law. Let's say like this.
So finding out about the independent living across the world in Europe gave you more courage and strength to continue with your advocacy there.
Yeah, definitely, because like Elena said, at the beginning we felt very alone, and sometimes we were asking ourselves, is this really something what people want, or is this something just like we want? Because we did not have any alliance in our own group of disabled people, let's say. And because they were also opposed and saying that this is impossible, that this cannot be, that we need institutions and so on. It costs so much and things like this. But it was like Ellen also told before, after 12 years of institutions, and let's say that our was not the worst one that exists in Slovenia, we really did not want any child to go there anymore. So let's say that this is also the difference between, still the difference between us and some other organizations, that we are really against institutions, any kind of institution. We think that the services provided in institutions can be organized in the community. It has been done, it's done, and we are on the way to the institutionalization also in Slovenia. But let's say that if it took us 30 years to achieve personal assistance, which is one of the basic tools, let's say, of independent living, especially for people who has a large scale of need in day. The institutionalization, it's still far away as we see it now.
Also, independent living, we have a law, but we still think that it's not used like
in a proper way. Yeah, before we were fighting for the law, we had also a lot of help and support from our colleagues in Europe when we were writing the articles of the law, when we were learning about the procedures and the assessments and evaluations and so on. We have
to say that we write down 2 or 3 versions of the law.
Yeah.
Quite,
we tried many times to pass the law. It was not now in 2019 they passed the law, but it was not the first time we tried to pass it. So it's there were different versions of the law. We were not very let's say completely content, because the law at the end was a compromise with the, let's say, desires of others disability organizations who in 2016, 17, let's say, joined in a way that, okay, we need personal assistance actions. But before that, we have to do all this learning, also learning from our own experience, how it is done, how the personal assistant is run, how they should how the articles should be written down. So we had also a lot of support from our colleague in other countries, especially from Sweden. Let's say
Sweden was our
idea of objective. They say, oh, but you have the government always say, but in Slovenia it's much better than, let's say, in other most other countries in Europe, and we say yes, but it's not so good that in Sweden we have to be better
The
than
model,
that.
yeah.
So
And-
it was quite a big fight, but when the law was passed, and now it's 2 years, the third year that we are using this law, we see that now we have to fight for the interpretation and the concept of
What is it?
independent living. And now we began again to teach the others what it means, the personal assistance running out by the principle of independent living. That the personal assistant, it's not just a service like other social services, one of the services, that this is like a human rights issue, and it has to be run in much different way than other services, in our view. And we have
proactive and independent, and you should have equal opportunities. That means not just rights, but also duties and
responsibilities and
Uh,
obligation to be active, an obligation to take your social role in the society. You don't have any excuse anymore that you cannot exit the house, or that you cannot work because there is no personal assistance, or that you cannot be a part of the community living because there is no personal assistance. This excuse, it's not there anymore, but we see that a lot of disabled people are using personal assistance just as a care service.
So that's a new
Somebody
challenge.
will come and take care of me, and we say this is wrong, and we really now we put a lot of our strength to teach the others, not just disabled people, also experts, also again the ministry, because every time the government change, we have to do it again, to explain our actions, to say why it is not so good to have 4 family members as personal assistants, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
Let's say,
summarize, we spoke a lot about your advocacy. You mentioned some of the challenges at the beginning, at least the opposition of the other disability organizations, which were strong and big. At present, the challenge is the interpretation of independent living. What other challenges have been in your advocacy for independent living, and what are your main achievements in your independent living advocacy?
Let's say that the main achievement surely is that we succeed to pass the law of personal assistance. This was quite a big move for Slovenia, especially because it's like a special law. It's not a law under the social services, but it's a special law, and it's a national law, and it is covered by the national budget of for personal assistance. It's also free for the users of personal assistance. This is also a very big achievement for them. But let's say that independent living, it's now we have quite a big issue. It's citizenization. That means moving out the people from institutions, and also
are still quite big.
Some institutions are still very big, and also getting people aware of the possibility, and that with personal assistance they can also be independent from their own families, because Slovenia is also very, let's say, family care oriented. I don't know how to say, like you say about Italy, like Italian mother, this is like Slovenian mother. It's like always taking care and protecting the disabled people, and we try to be also to tear down some barriers in that thinking,
Also
because
prejudice.
it's
That
prejudice that a person, disabled person, cannot live alone, cannot have a family, cannot take normal social roles as other citizens. I think, but the biggest issue, it's now also where to live, the places to live. It's not so simple to find a place on your own, and also at the beginning we thought that, of course, personal assistant is a basic tools, but now also the others questions are rising out, like where to live, or the housing, or the also the financial meanings to live outside the family or institutions are also very important.
Employment, because
And employment, no,
we,
it's a big issue. It's also employment, to be employed in a normal workplace.
like we create our own jobs.
Yeah, in a way we created our
Exactly.
own jobs. That's true.
Yeah.
It's something what at the beginning was our, let's say, hobby,
Yeah.
or our part of our living
Activism.
activism. It was like something what we took for as an obligations to do. It's you cannot just close your eyes and say I don't see it. It's
I don't care about
or I don't care about it. It's this
and
is,
then it become our work, our professional work.
yeah.
Now we have so many people.
In Slovenia, there are now 3,500 persons of using personal assistance, and in our organizations we have about 75, and it's users of personal assistant.
Personal assistant, we have more than
200.
minutes. 170.
200 imamo.
Others?
About 200 personal assistants are employed in our organizations, but we are in minority, like you see. It's like we are not a big or the biggest organizations anymore. Because before, when a personal assistant was just a program, that means that we have to work very, very hard to get enough money for the wages. Then we were every year, and it was based on every year budget, and every year we did not know in December how will we go in January, or will we made it, or we will not made it, and so on. So it was quite a big financial struggle to get enough money for the wages. Then we were the biggest, but now when the law is passed, everybody is the expert of personal assistance. Before the law, nobody heard about the personal assistance. When we were protesting on the streets, almost every year we have one protest in front of the parliament, or about the personal assistance, or about independent living, and so on. There were always about 100 people there, but now there are like more than 100 service providers of personal assistance, and they are the expert, like they say in their propaganda.
It's interesting to see, has your advocacy changed since the time you started, your activism started? You mentioned now you've organized protests on the streets.
Yes, it has changed. It definitely, it's not so anymore. Let's say we are more centralized on how to inform the ministry, the parties involved. It's more like targetirano. Yeah, we are targeting who is actually, who can do something about changing things, and then we try to pursue them to change the view, or to learn something more, and so on.
We are not so revolutionary like we were.
No, we are
20
not
years
so
ago.
revolutionary like we were 30 years ago. But still, I think it's also very hard when you are looking in the future and you see that there actually are no young people interested in such kind of activism. That means that most of the people who is still involved and fighting in changing other things, not just personal assistance, are our age. So it's like for the young, it's different. They did not go in institutions. I can understand that they already had integrated. Well, a lot of them had possibility to go to school in their own town and stay in their own families. So they did not experience the
Hard living.
hard living of institutions or the different like
Discrimination.
and so on. So this is quite an issue, how to get involved more young people in what we are talking about, because when we are talking about what happened 40 years ago, they're looking at us like, oh, those old people are having some memories about their student times.
Like, you know, when you heard about your parents talking about Second World War,
Yeah, it's
how it was?
it's very different because the young people don't take it for granted. They take it for granted. They take it for granted that they have personal assistance. They take it for granted that they can go in school in their own town. Okay, maybe this is the future, that we will not be disabled anymore when all the obstacles will be removed. But I am not so optimistic anymore as I was 40 years ago. And everything that we achieve can be also removed by a different kind of government, by a different kind of national budget cuts. All this can be cut down or sized down, and then somebody will be left out. And maybe then the people will ask themselves the question, where we were or what we have had, and so on. I don't hope. I hope that this will not happen, but still we must ask ourselves to whom we will leave the legacy of independent living as we see it.
It's a very, very important issue you're raising, and we'll get back to it when we're talking about the future. I think it's across the movement, there is a concern about how to engage more young people to ensure that we don't lose what we already have achieved with so many efforts in such a long time.
Yeah, we have all in mind for many years, because even in our organization, we try to involve younger people, but
Difficult, yeah.
yeah.
And if just a couple of more questions about the past. One is about the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Has it had any impact or any role for your advocacy, and what?
Yeah, I think yes. Yes,
but
it's very important tool if you use it as a tool, but you must still do a lot of work to implement those words into the reality.
All our project, all our ideas was made before the convention was right down. So
let's say that the convention was the confirmation also about what we were talking, and it was more specified in some issues because we don't work on everything what's connected with disability, let's say. But it's a very important thing also.
But
If you use it as a tool, especially when you are lobbying to change some laws or to make some structural movements, like now when we are talking about the institutionalization, you can say, you see, there is written down, this is a right, we have a right to live in the community. So I think that every disabled person who is still in institution now has something also,
legally to
yeah,
better for
it is
Yeah.
it is a legal obligation if you use it in a proper way. You know? If it is just a word on a paper, it's just word on a paper.
Our problem is Slovenia. It said is that this is it's translated Slovenian language, but very, very, very bad.
The translation was not good
Yeah.
done, and this is
Uh,
also one of the
Problem,
problems.
Yeah.
But let's say that not the biggest problem is the translation. The biggest problem is that the interpretation of the articles. You know, now there is a discussion about the institutionalization, and sometimes I'm asking myself, will this really be the institutionalization, or will be just decentralization, moving in a smaller sized institutions, you know? So it's quite a big issue also. You can live in your home, but if the services you need are institutionalized in a way that they are run by others for you, that means that you have done the institution in your home. It does not, the institutions are not the
changeable way of life or way of living.
Yeah, it's not the walls around you. Institutions are not the walls around you. Institutions are the rules around you, and who is in charge of those rules and who run the services you need for living independently. That's how we see it.
Yeah, you say it perfectly, like Michel Foucault will say it.
Yeah.
Okay, and this moves us to the discussion of the present and the challenges, the main tasks of independent living advocacy. The present you mentioned, so one key challenge apparently in your country is the focus on deinstitutionalization.
And also the interpretation of independent living and the
Now it's a big issue also because when it was implemented, personal assistant,
when it was implemented, yeah.
It was meant for many, for the, how many persons?
Yeah, when it was implemented, when it was when they passed the law, they say that there will be the estimation was about 700 people that it will use the personal assistance law, but now there are more than 3,500 users, and that means and the state already on every occasion is telling us how expensive it is, and it is,
which is true
if you confront the services for elder people or the services that exist, and there are not many services that exist, then it is more let's say expensive. But on the other way, we see that they already cut down how many we got for our personal assistance, but now we see that then we will not have enough to pay the wages similar for the personal assistants in a way that they will be similar as in other social services. So we will not get enough personal assistants, which is also a problem when the wages are too low.
One problem is that now the law give personal assistance for very low, what to say, for disability. They don't need really to have so many hours per day. And in the other side, there are too many parents or family members also as a personal assistant.
Employed as personal assistants, yes.
So it's another.
This is also a
problem.
big issue in personal assistance law, but like we said, it's there are many open questions still, but the most important is that the people must understand that personal assistance, it's not like other social services. It does not mean that somebody comes and takes care. It means that we are the one who decide how to live, where to live, and how many. And we also must be active. This is something what we are telling to the disabled people. It's like an obligation for them, you know. And
because in the past it was meant someone who have invalidity status, or we still call it like this.
In Slovenian
yeah.
language, yes.
In Slovenian language, that he or she is incapable to work. She get social care, and that's it.
Yeah. And this is also something what we must really change. That
this way of thinking.
This way of thinking.
Also to perceive ourselves.
Everybody, also to perceive ourselves
like a passive
users of help, not active members of the society. In my opinion, everybody can contribute in some way, or it is paid work, or it is voluntary work, or it is activism. But it's important that the disabled people know that they must be in a way that they are like role models for others. See what everything can be done if you have the right services in a right range you need.
So there are still people.
Slovenia.
Yes.
No, I just want to say that in Slovenia we still don't have long-term care system. It's another problem because many people who have some disability also get personal assistant, but they need
maybe they need other services. We see that also one problem of the person, why so many people are using personal assistance in a wrong way. I will say in a wrong way. They're using it in a wrong way, is because there are no other services available. This is for now the only the only possibility to get a lot of hours of help if you need it. There are no other services available. Let's say that help at home, it's only for those who needs less than 30 hours per week. So it's not for somebody who needs much more. And this is also what we are saying to the state, but then they are also afraid of other services because they see what happened with personal assistance, and they say, but if there will be other services, will that mean that somebody from personal assistant will not use it anymore? Or will it use this service and this service and this service? And we say, but we don't know. it's possible they will combine some services if they will be more appropriate for them, for example.
Yeah, but still our country is forced by the European Union to have this long-term
Yeah, the long-term care
care.
law, it's now on waiting list,
Yeah,
where they pass it, but it's a version that nobody understands. Nobody, not even the service provider understands what kind of services they should provide and who will pay for them. And the state doesn't understand, and we also, I don't understand this law. It's very confused.
okay.
How, I mean, I cannot
But
see
a
that.
lot of issues, a lot of questions
Yeah.
open. So our job, it's not done
Yeah,
yet.
apparently, yeah. And who are your allies at the moment? Who can you work with on these issues and support you?
We're still quite.
We are quite unique, I would say, but yes, we have some alliance. Also in other, let's say, traditional disability organizations. With some of them, we try to have some,
Some point
on some points,
that we have in common, yeah.
we have in common, and in those points we also are going to change them together. But some points are still very unique in our kind of view. For some, we are still
Strange.
and radical,
Yeah,
but that's also, let's say that
we like to be so. We are used to be so. It will be very, how to say,
we are very demanding. We are very demanding.
to be very
Also, the disabled people say that we are very demanding in a way that that they felt that they have always work on something when they are with us. And we say, well, yes, but this is living. You have always to work on something. You cannot lie down in bed and watch TV. And yes, you can in your free time, but in your work time, which means even if you're not employed, you must work on these issues. So also the personal assistance, as we saw it, it's like run by disabled people. It does not mean that somebody will come to Elena and take care of her. She must say what to do, where to do, how to do it, and be there.
be proactive to be active,
You know.
to watch and to see what the problems are and try to solve it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in all
Yeah.
ways. So yes, we are very demanding, but we think this is the right way because with this, kako se reče pokroviteljstvo? I lost the word, but okay, let's say with that, if you just say yes, yes, with this, with patronizing and saying yes, of course, you are not good, you're not well, you cannot do this because of your disability. Well, it's still the same, you know. People call us and say, oh, I'm disabled, I want to have personal assistance, can you come to me? And we say no. Can you come to us? You know, we will in our office, we will take care of the transport if you cannot, but they must do something. We will not go in their homes and organize everything for them and train their assistants and so on. They have to train them by the needs they have, not by something what we have done.
Yeah.
But let's say that we are also very proud of one of the book we managed to put together. It's about the personal how to use personal assistance in a way of independent living. It's like a book with which we use on our educations for Elena will bring it now. Okay.
So,
Or maybe-
yeah,
yeah.
yes. So waiting. So there's still many disabled people who do not understand what independent living is about.
I did not hear good again.
There's still many disabled people in Slovenia that who do not understand what independent living is about and do not know.
Yes, yes, they are.
Okay. So it's not only politicians and other.
No, it's not
organizations.
only, no, not at all. I think that the main focus it's on disabled people, you know, because like I say, when somebody comes to us, I don't know, we have, for example, one young woman on interview, and she came with mother, father, brother, and aunt to be her personal assistants, and we said, but this is not independent living. Oh, but they take care of me in any way, you know. It's like, this is not, and she was young and student, and the years that you know, she has to build up the life, not close herself into a family circle.
Yeah.
So it's very, sometimes we have, yes, we have to do more on empowering the disabled people, but empowering in them in a way, like Helena said, we have rights, yes, we have rights, but we have also responsibilities and obligations. It comes together in a pack. It's the same sack. It cannot be took just one and not the other, you know. It's not enough to say, I have rights, I'm disabled, I have rights, I have rights. Yes, but you have also the responsibility and the obligations, and the empowerment must go in this way. Because if you take this in consideration, then you then it will go in a right way, I think. So this is our booklet. It's also in translation now, with help of Enil, of course. And we hope that it's something what came out on many years of doing personal assistance. And there are a lot of things that actually happened. It's not something what we made out for the purpose of education.
It's quite.
Она превод координира. Then, okay, this is the first booklet. It's called the Manifesto.
It was made for
Year 2000. It was about the independent living program, which was the first one like this in Slovenia. And it's about, it's also half in English, half in Slovene, and it's from the year 2000. I think this is the third or fourth edition.
That's great.
Was done then.
And it's available online for people who want to have a look.
The manifesto,
yeah,
yes, but it's like it's an old thing. It's talking about the program of independent living, because we organize the personal assistance as in a way of as a project, as a program for many years, for 20 years, not for many, for more than 20 years actually. And these are some other booklets we have done. One is personal assistance and one is independent living. So it's also in English.
Okay.
But it was and Slovene, of course, on other side. And let's say here when it was, yeah, let's see. Yeah, it was, which year it was? It was in October 2003. And here on the picture, it's also Adolf, who came from Sweden, and I think Ian, who came from UK, because at that time John could not come. So let's say it's a long way to go. It's a lot of events. and fighting. And Elena sometimes is boring now. She says, "Oh, there is no some good anymore this years." And I said, "Oh, stop being like how like we have talked to our parents that they are." But it's but when you think about it, it's quite a lot of work still to do. And the biggest issue is the institutionalization, and I think also the
create our services
it's the fight for the right interpretation of independent living. It must be said daily, and you see that people still don't understand what we are talking about.
Yeah, or don't understand, or some don't want to understand, or try to probably twist it a bit so that it suits
Yeah.
their.
Yeah, it's they misuse it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And okay, now looking into the future, what is the future of independent living in Europe and beyond? What do you think?
in the Europe. I think it's quite clear that just a few countries we have the rule. So for the other countries,
It would be the best way. It would
Yeah.
be if there would be a directive, of course, of the European Union. If you have a directive of personal assistance and independent living, then the countries are obliged to do something and to adapt their law to fulfill the directive. So it's like this. If there will be no directive, that means that the countries for themselves can had to decide when to acknowledge this right, or when not to acknowledge this right, or when to say, we heard it for so many years. Yes, we know, but it's not the right time now. It's too soon. There is not enough money and things like this. For so many years, we heard always the same thing. So
yeah, because I know the situation.
and the future, it's also in bigger connections between us. I think that it can our experience, let's say, we hope that we give more hope for the countries who are not so rich, because before it was always said, oh yes, in Sweden, but Sweden, it's a rich country, it's possible. But now the other countries has also Slovenia as a good model, and also our politicians, nobody will say that personal assistance is wrong now, or that they will just cut it down. They will not dare to say that now. But so it's important also to be a role in this kind of discussions when it comes to funds, because at the end, always you have to fight for the funds. Even when you have the law, you have to fight to get enough funds to get appropriate wages for the personal assistants, that they will come and work as personal assistants. So it's very important for us to
in some way
to also
we also are syndicalist for such a
syndicalist
for our personal assistance, because before the law this was a job who didn't have the value, the proper value. You know, we also try to promote this.
Yes, because before there was no budget, so it was not the wages were low, and it was not an estimated profession, let's say.
You know, or you care for somebody. No, it's not caring. It's to care somebody. It's not caring. Do not I have to care about myself, but the personal assistant, it's not someone who care, just someone who help in this way that I teach them how to do it.
It's a different kind of services, and this is also important
it's
to
also
teach.
to promote this paradigm, because often in society, people that
Yeah, they care for somebody.
yeah,
It's not care. This is a very dangerous word,
Yeah.
care, because from it's a
our
very
experience.
from our experience it's a
Yeah.
very
You know,
dangerous
how many-
word.
how many
A lot of
times-
people want to care for us. Experts want to care, and so on and so on. So you have every day you have to fight against this kind of care
interpretation.
and interpretation. Yes.
And looking
No,
at
and I wanted to say, what is the future? I think the future is also in getting more connected, and we are very honored when somebody asks us to take part of some conference they have because of the law of personal assistance, because in this way we feel that we are giving back what we got from other organizations before we got the law for many years. Like I said, we had a lot of help from United Kingdom, from Sweden, from activists there. And now if somebody asks us to talk about our experience, we are honored, because in this way we can, let's say, pay back and pay for the future, and get done something, or maybe change something, because like Adolf was inspiration for us when he came for the first time in Slovenia, like this we can inspire somebody else, and because maybe yes, because we came from the country that is not so rich, and let's say that this that we came from the country where the institutions are very powerful and big, like also in other states of like Hungary, like Poland, like Croatia, like Serbia, like Montenegro. They all have very big institutions. And
Also, we have in common this socialist
yeah, past. Yes.
past.
yeah, and the strong something that you mentioned, the strong and powerful disability organization,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is also unique. for-
Traditional
Traditional, yeah.
disability
Yeah.
organization divided by medical diagnosis. You see,
This
this
is quite a big issue.
is a
for
very
us,
big issue.
Because we at Claudia, we were often very discriminated. We are fed, you know, and when we are young, we're taken about because I have muscular dystrophy and Claudia had
Ni treba bilo.
pancreatic, and then Claudia often helped me in everything, you know. And we
I was her personal assistant
Yeah.
before the personal assistance was possible, let's say. And sometimes we came together somewhere, of course, for
Yeah.
holidays. And they say, no, but you cannot come, just Elena can come. I cannot come, I help her. So it was at that time, yes. But, now Elena has her own personal assistant. So
Yeah.
now she helps me. So I don't need to cook so many often.
But
Elena
we
is
were-
a very good cook.
But we were able to go everywhere, and Claudia helped me in everything. And she take me on the wheelchair. And,
I was strong at that time.
yeah,
And
and some people, oh, how this is possible? they're very,
But this was our way of living because we live in institution together in the same room, and it was our way of living that somebody who can do something and somebody who can't does. It's always that you are there for them. So I don't know. I hope that we will not have this institution system anymore, so that people will not learn our experience in a hard way.
Mhm.
They can also learn in a different kind of way.
Well, then listening to you, it seems very important that you have each other to support each other and to help each other with
Yeah,
the
yeah.
fight throughout the years.
when we fighting one against the other, it is also quite
Yeah, we are quite
Wow.
different characters. And
Yeah.
sometimes we have different opinions, but it's important to hear each other.
Yeah.
And to
when in the office we are fighting and they're fighting like this now and like this all our colleagues are like, well, what will happen? Oh,
and then nothing happens actually. It's like the next day it goes on, and it's a kind of I think it's a kind of thing between people who are knowing each other for so many years.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I was
also we are
Elena was 9 and I was 8 when we met, and then we were together for 12 years in institutions in the same room, most of the time in the same room. Maybe some year not, because these rules of institutions, you have from 1st to 4th class and then from 5th to 8th class, and because she was 1 year older in this transmission, she went up before me. So
Okay.
every 4 years she went up. So
And
it's,
because you can't choose with whom you stay living in an institution as well. Yeah.
no, when we were older, we choose.
Yeah.
But it was also something what we were fighting for. We were also fighting against a lot of things in institutions. It's like they have this daily order and routine and so on. And we have quite a lot of fights also
And
in
then
institutions.
what to eat and
What to eat, when to go to bed. This was a big issue, when to go to bed.
when to
I can
go.
imagine for young people, this is a key issue. And when I said young people, probably the last question, any reflection, you mentioned the importance of having more young people to carry on. Any ideas what can be done to involve young people?
I don't know.
I don't know. When I look around, I see young people, and I'm very glad. I'm also very happy when I see on the streets disabled people which I don't know. Means this is great. Something is it's good. For me, it's always good if this visibility is changing. Because when we started to go to the university, there were only our three, me, Elena, and Emil, and then another 3 people in a wheelchair, disabled. We see each other on concerts or in when we go to cinemas and so on. The same 6 people in the whole city. So now I'm very happy when I see around people I don't know, and when I see that they are young in the company of other people, I'm even more glad. But how to involve them in our movement, I don't know, actually. I have no
I
idea.
have a niece who has 21 years, and I can
Her niece has
Yes,
21 years.
I can't imagine because they're quite different. When I am with her, I feel so old really that I don't have in the idea. I don't know society so changed that really I don't have idea how to.
Yes, but we had to grow up very fast in because we live in very different circumstances, and they don't have really to grow up so fast. So they're very young for a long time.
They're so,
Not involved in things. So also not just about disability, also about other things are not involved. I think it's not just the disability, the issue. There are also other issues which are also not interesting for young people. So I don't know. I see for the young disabled people, I see sometimes a lot of them, they are involved in some cultural projects, if there is something of culture involved, or some freedom of movement, like touristic programs, you know, like how to go around, where to go, where traveling and so on. They are very involved in that field, in accessibility field or so on. But in other fields, actually, they political issues and so on, they don't feel so close to them. And I don't know what to do to bring them closer. I just hope that they will not have the hard way to then, so then they will be forced to know the issues that we are fighting for.
To become more engaged politically, yeah. Okay. Is there anything else that you'd
So
like
if
to
you
share?
have a recipe, share please. So it's welcome. It's welcome. Yeah.
We'll see after all the interviews, you might have a better idea. Hopefully people from different countries will be able to share some suggestions. Yeah.
I don't know, but maybe this is just, I don't know, the right way. They're just living their lives and they're not involved in movements anymore because they have the rights that we had to fight for, and they have already those services that we have to fight for. So maybe we should just look for somebody who does not have these rights. For example, like people still living in institutions, and focused on them, about empowering them to move out also. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's just it's an open question without one answer, I believe so. And
Okay.
if you have any final words or thoughts before I stop recording, something I forgot to ask you about, or
Elena?
no, I'm very honored to.
Yeah, we are very honored.
Proud to be involved in this news interview, and thank you for everything.
Yes.
And we are now preparing for the Freedom Live.
We are coming, so
Yeah. So this is this.
yeah, take care. And I would like just to thank also all the people that helped us in all these years, at the beginning, in the middle, when it was needed. So it's not something what we achieved just by ourselves. We had also a lot of support. We had a lot of friends, and still have. And it's very important that we help each other when we are in need to help each other. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you for taking part and for continuing to support other organizations as well.